everyone, how are you guys doing? I hope that you like this new little background that I'm trying out today for my book videos. I kind of thought that actually filming like a typical booktuber standing up and in front of my bookshelf would be kind of fun because typically that's not something I do on my channel. And you guys know I'm a mix. I'm not just a booktube channel, I'm not just a makeup channel. I have lots of different variety within this channel, and so I thought that, you know, kind of changing up my backgrounds and my filming locations might be kind of fun. Because this is the first time filming in this particular location, I'm not too sure exactly how lighting and everything is gonna look. When I go back and edit this, I'll kind of get a better feel for that, but hopefully for this video, this will be okay. So today I'm gonna be doing a little review and discussion for King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. I posted a really small, not very in-depth, just a very kind of like my feelings review on my Goodreads, which I have the link to that down below if you guys want to friend me. And I just kind of, for some reason, had this feeling like, you know what, I really want to film a video on this. Partially that's because, you know, this is kind of brand new and there's some hype around it, so I thought it would be fun for me to kind of talk about it and give my 2 cents. And I do want to, you know, incorporate more individualized book reviews within my channel because a lot of times I just do wrap-ups and such, but it's kind of fun to do a standalone review. King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard is the 3rd novel in the Red Queen series. I believe this was originally meant to be a trilogy. I could be wrong, but it is definitely now expanding. There's already a 4th book like kind of in the works, and so this is the 3rd novel, so there might be some kind of spoilery stuff in this, just so you guys know. I'm gonna assume if you haven't read the first 2, you probably have no interest in this review. So if you haven't read the first 2, or maybe if you haven't read the second one, overall my thoughts on this book are that if you like the first one, if you like the second one, I really think you're gonna love this one. But I do kind of want to delve more into the spoilery side of things because I want to talk about my own personal feelings towards this book and towards this series. So if you want no spoilers, those are my overall feelings. On the flip side, however, if you are someone that really didn't enjoy the previous 2, I wouldn't bother with this. It's almost exactly the same in the way that it's written and in the way that the characters are developed. So overall, that's kind of my non-spoilery thoughts. Moving into a more spoilery discussion. So my overall feelings towards the series, to be honest, is not great. I read Red Queen, and it was actually one of the first YA fantasy novels that I ever read. Before Red Queen, the fantasy genre of young adult was never anything that really interested me. For some reason, I just never really got into it. Beforehand, I read a lot of supernatural and I read a lot of contemporary. But overall, you know, I've always been somebody that also reads a lot of adult fiction, and so the fantasy genre of young adult novels wasn't anything that I ever really delved into. My sister kind of turned me on to this when she read Red Queen, and she was like, hey, you think you should check this out? You might really like it. So I read it, and I did actually really enjoy it. So my expectations and everything going into that novel were a lot different than the expectations I have now going into YA fantasy. And that is primarily because I have read so much more, and I have read such amazing YA fantasy that my standards have definitely been higher. What originally kind of drew me into this is I liked the kind of political system. I liked this idea of having the silvers and the reds and just kind of having this superiority complex within the political system. And I really liked the story of this girl who was different, who was a really strong female character. And so those were kind of the original things that really drew me into Red Queen. I also feel like Red Queen, as far as the action goes, was quite nice. Red Queen was a bit smaller, a little bit more condensed, and it really did draw me in. So shortly after I read Red Queen, I did read Glass Sword, and Glass Sword was kind of where things started to fall a little bit flat for me. At that point, I kind of felt like in Glass Sword, I was almost reading the same thing again, and that was something that I mentioned in my Goodreads review, is that it seems like these books follow a very specific kind of formula and they don't really change a whole lot. I feel like a lot of the action and a lot of the suspense and character development, it all kind of feels the same throughout all the different novels. But what made me want to continue is that Glass Sword, obviously, if you've read it, left off on like the biggest cliffhanger ever, and the ending to that novel I actually thought was superb. I thought it was just really action-packed. It was so intriguing. I loved the entire kind of like fight battle scene, and you know, Mare losing her brother and then being captured, like it just was so intense. So the other day I was just kind of perusing Target, and I went over to the book section like I typically do, and I saw that this book came out. This was not really on my radar for 2017. It was honestly something that through the months I kind of just forgot about it since I read Glass Sword, but I saw it there and I was like, oh, okay. I kind of, you know, started thinking back to Glass Sword and thinking about how it ended, and I was like, okay, I'm really interested now. I need to know what happens. And I think my particular issue with this novel is for myself, I found it incredibly boring for like the first 250, 300 pages. We basically just follow Mare as she's captured and as she's trying to find a way to escape, or, you know, she's just sort of thinking about, you know, is she going to be rescued, yada yada. But it goes on for way too long. I was expecting her to either be rescued or to escape a lot quicker than she actually did. And to me, that was a little bit frustrating because I really didn't care to hear her, you know, kind of just going around the castle grounds. And even though I do feel for her as a character, it was a lot of just the same thing. Obviously, she's sad, she's scared, she's worried, all these different things. But really, that's what the first few hundred pages of this book were her just being, you know, captured and her just having all these inner monologues about those feelings. We did see a little bit of her and Maven's relationship, and we got a little bit more background on Maven and why he is the way he is, why he kind of feels this infatuation towards Mare. But this is stuff that really could have been condensed down, and I think that we could have gotten the same, if not a higher emotional impact from the story if that would have been condensed down to, let's say, 100 or 150 pages. This just did not need to be a 500 plus page book. There's not enough stuff that happens in this for it to be that long. And so to be honest, I was like almost halfway through the story and I thought about DNFing it because I was like, nothing is happening. Like, this is so boring. And I just find that these characters, now that again I've read more YA fantasy, these characters to me are a lot more dull than characters that I've grown to love in other series. I find that there really hasn't been a lot of character development. I find that I just am not invested in any of the relationships, whether it be a friendly, a familial, or a, you know, love interest. And it's just not intriguing enough for me to want to continue. Once you do get through that first like half of this book, however, things do, you know, I find tend to pick up a little bit more. We got an amazing battle scene when she is rescued, and then we get another battle scene towards the end. To be honest, I thought the one where she was rescued was a lot more interesting than the one towards the end, but in typical Victoria Aveyard fashion, it does leave off again on a little bit of a cliffhanger, which I am somebody that, I don't hate cliffhangers. I actually find them to be really intriguing because that's what makes you want to continue reading the series. And I understand that authors and publishers do that very intentionally so that you'll do what I did and buy another book to a series that maybe you're not totally invested in. But, you know, if you're kind of like me and you just have that weird like OCD tendency of I need to know what happens, you're gonna buy it. But I really just don't see myself moving forward with the series in the future. Again, I am just not emotionally invested enough into the characters and into the storyline. I think that all the books are just a little bit too similar, and just looking back on this, I'm like, what even happened? Like, what was even like really the point of this? Other than the new conflict that kind of arises towards the end of this novel, I really just don't feel like there was enough in this novel to keep me interested and to keep me intrigued. It definitely wasn't an edition that grew my interest or anything at all. It didn't really cultivate it or anything. It completely, if anything, almost kind of destroyed it and made me realize why I really don't like this series. Now, I know some of you may be thinking that this review is coming from like a completely weird perspective here. I mean, I'm reviewing a book that going into it, I was kind of a little bit on the fence about. But when I posted my review and my status updates on Goodreads, a lot of people actually were agreeing with me. I had some people that were commenting saying, you know, let me know how you feel about this because I'm sort of on the fence. And honestly, when I see a lot of booktubers reviews on Red Queen or Glass Sword, I feel like a lot of people kind of feel the same as I do. It's a good series, it's just not great. For me, it's even sort of generous calling it good. It's just okay. It's a very standard YA fantasy novel that for some people, I can understand why you would like this. My little sister, for example, she's really into these novels, and I do get the allure and I definitely get the attraction, and I understand how a certain type of reader might be interested in this. But my thoughts overall are very similar to what I said in the beginning. If you are just a Red Queen lover and this is a series that you adore, you are gonna like this because it's very much so kind of like the same idea, the same pacing, the same sort of writing, and again, the same character and plot development. So if you already love the series, this is going to be a very welcome addition. However, if you are someone like me who was, you know, originally kind of on the fence, I just don't think you're going to like this. I think this is something you're just going to be kind of disappointed in, and I think, you know, you're kind of going to put yourself in the same situation where I am in, where it's like I just have no interest now in finishing the series. But those are all of my thoughts and my feelings towards King's Cage. I hope you guys enjoyed this little spoilery kind of discussion video. Let me know if you have read this, what your thoughts are, or if you have read maybe Red Queen, or if you've read Glass Sword. Just let me know how you feel about this entire series. Are you absolutely in love with it? Is it one of your favorites? Or is it one that you maybe dropped a long time ago? Little Desi Boo Boo's like so interested in what Mama's doing. Can you say hi, Boosing? Say hi. Hi, Boosing. Hi. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.